It adds all this fiery element in the fifth house, the performance. The person's got to be performing. I got to play my guitar. I'm going to bring my guitar everywhere I go. I'm going to travel, whatever, but I'm going to have my guitar. I'm going to have, or I'm going to just do things for my kids, make sure they got all the right things. I'm playing around my kids and thinking, like the Jupiter, it's still fiery. So there's a pride element. There's a enthusiastic. I got to act on my understanding and make it real and live it. And I'm living in all of these ways. Aren't I lucky compared to other people who aren't living that way? So the ninth house is your principles, your morality, your ethics, and you're going to be proud of your ethics, and probably you're going to want people around you who are proud of the ethics too and consider you highly, and you'll be high in position in the church, in the business, in the places. People will look up to you and say, well, he's a very moral or ethical person, or she's a very moral or ethical person. Never mind the divorces, or never mind it. When you say ethical, how we live out, there's always personal stories, what's fair and not personally, that are there too. So these are three categories that there's three areas that we have. Our identity is, our self-consciousness comes from self-identity, our personal performance, my play, romance, the hobbies and the things I can play with that I like, and my understanding of where I am. Of course I understand where I am. Of course I understand what I'm doing. If someone attacks what I'm doing, you're going to be mad at your understanding. Of course I know what I'm doing. Why are you questioning me? Okay, so we're seeing that. Now, the more detailed we get into explaining all of these, the less we're maintaining all the links that are going on to Mars, to Saturn, different things going on while this is happening. This comes in time as you work with charts. But as soon as you're doing this for individuals, it stops having to cover everything. You start seeing the one factor that person has and you're working with it. It builds up much better. These other planets you'll see much better that way. So Jupiter in the having houses, in the concern, understanding practical matters. It's earthy. Money, practical matters, health, job. Understand I gotta have this job and what it takes to get the job. I have to understand how much money I need and when I'm going to get the money I need, and I have to have this. I understand the skills I have to have, got to be good at it. I have to be able to work. I have to do a job properly. So you have the understanding in the second house. You're projecting how much money I need to get this money. I got to look for the job. The Jupiter is going to align to try to figure that out, and you'll have it figured out probably more than other people. But you have to observe whether you can't see by looking at a chart if someone's good or bad. The aspects can be stressful, doesn't mean they're good or bad. Someone can have the horriblest chart and still be a good person. So you have to observe whether someone's having good or bad behavior. Or I call it good or ignorant behavior, better than good or bad. But Jupiter is pushing the wisdom to understand. I understand I got to have this much resources. You might want Jupiter there. You might spend anything because you believe in something or you value something. Or you got to have this or you got to have that, but it's working on collecting things, on having things, on understanding what your values are. Not what anybody else's, but mine are, what I have to do to get them. When Jupiter's up in the 10th house, you understand what status is, what you have to do to be known, how people are going to respect you, how to have abundance and promotions and expansion in your career and in your honor and your dignity. In the 6th house, it's having perhaps multiple skills, or an understanding of what's healing, how to improve things. Like in the 10th house, it's understanding how to accomplish. If I say I'm going to do this, I'll get this done on time, it will be done. That's like Jupiter's trying to align to Saturn, but I have an understanding to do that. So you can get things done, but the understanding that's in the 6th house is I can make this better. I understand I can improve something. Why would I do it if I can't improve it or make it better? Or if I'm not doing things good enough, the struggle is to understand how to make it better. Of course, you add drugs or alcohol to this, and you have a denial and a negativity where you're not doing it well, and you're in denial that it's wrong. Then it gets really, all the negative factors get more exaggerated, and the vulnerability is increased from that. So specific things you see around the inner planets, but as you get to understanding, it's interwoven with what you've done, who you affected, how you've been reacted back, how you've met. It's your perspective on the world. It's your judgment. It's your perspective. It's your take on things. And normally we think we understand things good enough until we totally lose or have times when we're really down, where I certainly didn't understand that to get to here. then there's a big struggle to change understanding. It's not it's a 12-year cycle. It's not something that happens overnight. But sometimes with Jupiter, finding a teacher and finding someone who knows, or becoming the teacher and being one who knows, is part of the process. So when you get into the third houses, the relationship houses, the air houses, we have a relationship with our immediate environment, our common sense, and how we express ourselves. That's Jupiter. So I have Jupiter in the third house. So I have a common sense, but it's a little exaggerated. I'll prove things. I'll talk longer on spiritual things. I'll exaggerate stories for effect. I'll argue with people. Once I get arguing, I'm not going to stop. I keep going. That's my Jupiter down there in Scorpio. Scorpio has it. So it mixes up, but I can see I'm trying to work out what's worth knowing and what's worth studying. So it's really accentuates my studying, but I have traveled a lot too. When you have it in the seventh house, it's the understanding about relationships, partnerships, not just marriage, business partnerships, how to share with someone else. And understanding that by sharing, two people are more than the sum of the parts, and there's much more that can be done, but it's understanding how to align and understanding what's right or wrong or what's good or bad in sharing who you're with or who you're not. I married the right person. I married the wrong person. I married my second choice. My first choice I couldn't get, but I settled for you. Let's go to bed now. Oh, great. But like that could be a misunderstanding, but understand generally looking for what's right or what's best, or having too many relationships. But the understanding is geared to partnerships, to sharing. So if you're trying to understand, you usually need the feedback from someone else to get your sense of relativity and get your understanding clicked in better. In the 11th house, you need friends. Friends or enemies. Sometimes enemies can clear up your understanding. I'm not there. I could never do that. I'm not part of that group anymore. But anytime you leave a group, the group will blame you. How could you leave us? So the learning through friends, what are good teams, what are good groups, having friendships, not having friendships. Well, Jupiter's, we have other planets in our charts that can come in, can activate these houses much stronger than Jupiter. Jupiter's just a presence there of how we're trying to figure things out. But when you're taking one chart and you're looking at how that presence works, it crystallizes, and you usually see a few ways that, oh, they process like that, and then you usually get some concrete examples about this. But Jupiter's never concrete, because even if they have a wrong understanding now, they might get another better understanding later, but it's going to take some time and experience to get it. Okay, the last ones, the Jupiter's in the water houses. You have the houses, your home is, you have your sense of security, your understanding about what personal security is, what your integrity is. You've lived according to your principles and motives, and you understand this is how I live and how my security comes. Okay, that's Jupiter. But it could be, I got to have a big house. I've got to have a pool. I have these things. I got to live like this. I don't care, but the other thing I got to have. So it can be an exaggerated sense of security around home, but it really is trying to understand motivations. This affects me. How am I going to deal with this? Why should I put up with this? I need to have someplace secure to survive the storms of the outer world. And you may not be able to get my understanding without being at my place. There's 1,000 associations in that making, and where this starts to unfold, the more cerebral you make it, the more mercurial you're making it, and the more techniques the more divisions we're making, the more cerebral it's getting. So sometimes it's enough to see just one or two things of how Jupiter's working. You go, oh, look at that, and it's enough to work with. If you start just from the multiple things, it's hard to get back to the source current of someone's ethics and principles and their understanding, and how that's affecting their functioning, how it's integrating between Mars and Saturn. We're working on all these things. So slowly it builds up. 12th house is, you have a sense of what's right or wrong and conscientiousness. So whether you're throwing your stuff in the garbage or you're separating it out, so you're making sure you're putting the organic things in a place that can be recycled, or you're conscientious about those things or not. So, but Jupiter thrives in this part where it's trying to become more conscientious or understand that it's ready to transform an understanding for better. If some bigger problem comes up, they're trying to understand how to align to fix it. In the 8th house, it's about business and sharing money, and also 8th house, other people's resources. If people die, who gets what? So you could say you're lucky around inheritances, but really you have an understanding of how to align to get them. You know, if you have 4 kids in a family and the parents are dying, the one with the Jupiter and the 8th house will know what's going on the most and know how they have to do a line to get their fair share, or then some, of the inheritance. But in business, if someone knows how to advertise, how to business, how to pull other people's money in, how to buy, sell things, how to exchange. And it's that ability to trust, to understand trust, that's a special gift. To understand personal security, understand how you can have your home, how I need my home, how we're feeling secure, understand not to make you insecure. I need, like, that's its own special. They're emotional, they're not rational. These are the water houses. And often they're said to be the houses of death or endings. So it's understanding things only last for so long. Okay, so now you can run around through the individual keywords and you're just making the associations to it, but we've basically done this. Oh, we'll go through it. Right now I'm talking around the Jupiter. Like the deepest things we already talked about is there. It's hard to hold this when we're using so many mental concepts and going through all of these things. But when you're working with a person chart and trying to figure out, you got a problem kid, you're trying to see, how are they processing? You can start seeing a wrong understanding. If you see the wrong understanding, you get hints as how, you still may not know how to change it, but you might get closer to having a process of changing it or giving good information to feed it than you would have without knowing this. But knowing an idea is like Mercury, understanding the implications of where it is. I mean, for an alcoholic or a junkie, Jupiter's all messed up because they've overindulged and expanded everything. They think they're in touch with the universe, this is what it is, but they're in denial about so many other things. They're dysfunctional. So their Mars is all screwed up because their understanding is all screwed up. And they've gone to such extremes, they're isolated. Only people that have gone to those extremes will they think they can understand. Whew.